Riyad,
Chari,
how are you?
good man, good.
No Dhananath today, so
Yeah,
I have you.
absolutely, yeah. So you asked how I was, but I'm quite good. But I had a good weekend. You know why?
Yeah. You had a good weekend. I didn't because your team won and
Yeah. So those are things.
well, technically, I mean, we don't want to get into that, but
Yeah,
basically,
you all won the second leg, but you all lost.
yeah,
But you all lost the.
lost the
You
first
all
leg.
won the
So
battle. You all won the battle, but lost the war.
yes, so Trinity lost to Royal. Okay, fine. We've got that out of the way. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But we can talk about ice.
And this is not about the song.
Not about ice baby,
Yeah.
but the dangerous ice.
Yeah. I mean, it has become huge. I think it has become a huge pandemic in the country, and it's very dangerous. It's much more dangerous than, for example, the traditional drugs that I think we are used to hearing. Because if you look at the traditional drugs that have been there, it's plant based, right? So I mean, cocaine and heroin and all that, it's plant based, and plus there's a completely different ecosystem where it has to come into the country where nothing is grown here. So because of that, one reason is because of that the supply is also kind of curtailed, because the amount what you can bring into the country, maybe it comes through the port, maybe it comes through small boats, who knows, right? But probably what they say, what law enforcement, what they say is basically those are the two major channels. But for example, if you take ice, I mean the ice is just the street name for methamphetamine. It's I mean regularly known as meth. The real danger with ice is probably, I think, that was also imported into the country. I think most of the ice manufacturing in this part of the world, I think, is probably in East Asia. And that also, I think, comes through our borders. But the real troublesome part is where ice is now kind of getting manufactured here. So that was this famous Norelia case, where that house was found with, I think, what 1,000 kilos or something, right?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. So a huge
But now they've discovered 3 places, right?
Yeah.
So there's Middenia, which is in Hambantota district.
Yeah.
And then there is Norelia.
Yeah.
And then there is Kandana.
Yeah.
So, like in terms of the geographical diversification also.
Exactly.
I mean, they are going from the south,
Yeah.
deep south,
Yeah.
to the hill country.
Yeah.
And then to the coastal belt.
Absolutely, Chari. It's basically to do with logistics, right? So the thing is, like, if you bring it through the traditional channels, let's say it comes from the coast or it comes from the harbor, what happens is, it generally comes into a focal point. There is a concentrated point. From there, they do the island-wide distribution. So what they are currently doing when they are manufacturing within the country, what they're doing is, they can manufacture to, for example, region-wise, they can manufacture where the distribution becomes much easier. Because the more, if you bring it to one focal point and when you try to distribute, the number of checkpoints, number of, other barriers which they have to go through is much more. But when they take the distribution to the regions, it's much more easier for them to basically to operate. And the real dangerous part what I see is, which is the most alarming thing, is basically I mean, if anyone has seen the famous movie Breaking Bad, TV series, like which was a hit, story about Walter White and Jesse Pinkman and the whole saga what they went through. I mean, that manufacturing process can be done relatively easily. I mean, only thing is you need a person with a lot of skill, a good chemist, who can, and if he has the basic equipment, a lot of the material what is used is actually found in households. That's the alarming part. Now, for example, things like battery acid, certain cleaning products that we use in houses, those things are, and particular gases which are used in very openly available industries.
Yeah. Let's not mention the ingredients.
Exactly. So, I mean, for example, the gases are from the from the AC industry, right? People who are into freezing solutions and air conditioning and all. So that raw material is available, and these are not banned items. These are available items which are used by normal people who run respectful businesses. So the problem is, when those products get concentrated at a particular point, and when someone who knows what he's doing starts manufacturing, then it becomes a huge issue.
Yeah. So, Riyad, since you brought up Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah.
I see similarities and also differences in the sense that if people who remember that show would remember that they started it right just in a small caravan, and it was very amateur the way they did it, but they had this genius cook, right? But later on in the show, you get the actual big dogs in the meth industry.
Yeah.
That is, there's a guy called Tuco Salamanca. There's a guy called Gus Fring. Gustavo Fring.
Yeah.
And
the chicken man.
Right? And it really looks like Sri Lanka has those kind of Gustavo Frings, those chicken men.
Yeah.
Who are, so Gustavo Fring's main thing is, I hide in plain sight.
Yes.
So what he does is he goes and funds the police.
Absolutely.
He provides funding to the police, right? To the Drug Enforcement Authority, the DEA.
That's the genius of him.
That's the genius of him, right? And it increasingly looks like we don't know who this guy is, or it could be a woman also, but I'm saying who these people are.
Yeah.
It could be multiple people, a single person.
Absolutely.
But it really looks like there are a couple of big dogs, right? Who are hiding in plain sight, because I don't think that this stops at Kehel Bhadrapadme or whoever it is. That cannot be the main man, right? He has a boss. Who is that boss, right?
Exactly.
And
what is the chain of command here?
Exactly, right? And again, coming back to the Breaking Bad thing, in that he is a fantastic businessman.
Yes.
Right? Even the chicken business he does very well, because that provides cover for his drug business.
And he makes a huge meth lab in one of the locations.
Under the store, right? Under the factory.
Under the factory,
yes. So, for me...
Actually, under the laundry. He has
under the laundry, exactly. Under the laundry,
right.
There you go. So, I'm just wondering, who is that guy?
Yeah.
And I think we have a great opportunity now to see if we can actually trace all of this back to that main person, right? In Sri Lanka, well, see, this is the thing, right? Drugs is a high risk, high return investment as a business. Because it's high risk, because you can get caught anytime.
Yeah.
You always have to be looking over your shoulder about who's coming behind you, who's going to catch you, who's going to rat you out in that language, right? But in Sri Lanka, it feels like for the longest time, we have had high return, but not high risk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you know the right people, then you are safe.
Yes.
Right? And that is problematic, and I hope that's what's going to change, that you can't know somebody and then be safe and secure and have peace of mind about what you're doing while getting those amazing returns on it as well.
Absolutely.
It is supposed to be high risk, high return. It's like investing in the stock market is supposed to be riskier than a savings account, and that's why the returns are potentially greater.
Yes.
Because the returns could be potentially worse also.
Yes.
But here it feels like they are so safe. They've been safe for the longest time, and I just hope that we get to that top, right, without just scratching the surface.
Absolutely, because thing is, one thing really alarming in this is, since this is relatively, I mean, as long as you, as you very rightly said, as long as you have a good cook, and you don't need a lot of, for example, if you look at the past, you need a lot of patronage from very people high up in the past to basically run an operation like this. This is something, if you have the right cook, you have a little bit of money, and you have a relatively safe location, you can actually get this thing done. So it becomes very alarming where you don't need that whole connection dot line to start something like this. For example, let's say...
Do you think that is the way it's happening in Sri Lanka, though? Do you not think that this is all part of a larger network?
No, probably...
That these are the little fish.
No, the thing is, so I'm just looking this at a business, right? I mean, if you look at any business, like, there are a lot of entry barriers, right? So if you look at the drug business also, there are a lot of entry barriers, because you need a lot of people, for example, get it through the harbor. You need to make sure that the Navy patrol timelines where when the Navy, boats are going, they'll be at this particular time. So, okay, don't go there at that time because the Navy goes and very actively they check ships, right? So you need that whole ecosystem, right? Of information. Information is basically the biggest thing here. But then again, if you start manufacturing at a domestic level, which is not very complicated, it is complicated, but if you have a good cook, as what we spoke earlier, you can do this at a smaller scale. Where a lot of people, now for example, if you want to cook, you can probably get someone down from East Asia or someone who has done this before, right? Nobody knows who he is. You just go, you hire a lonely house from somewhere, you get some funding from another person, or maybe people who get involved in this are people who have already been in this business, which means they have a lot of black money, right? And what you do is you can start your own little small operation, right? That is the real dangerous part in this, because normally if you go after if you get the big fish and all that, you can basically traceability is much easier. But then if you get multiple people who are trying to do this, and very rightly you said, there was one in Kandana, then there was what are the other two locations?
Medenia and
Norelli. And we have, and there was another case lastly also in the suburbs of Colombo, something happened and all that. So that means this has been going on for a while, or maybe it's at its infant state. But the problem is, if the entry barriers are less for this to get into the business, then the number of potential people getting into the business is larger. That is the danger I see. Because if you go with the traditional stuff, you need a whole supply chain, you need the connections, you need all that.
Yeah. So what I think is that...
And the other one is the pricing point. Now, for example, if you look, I'm just looking at this as a business, right? So if you look at the pricing, for example, if you're bringing down traditional drugs, heroin, cocaine, KG and all that, it's manufactured overseas. It's bought to Sri Lanka. So there is manufacturing cost overseas. Then you need to, there's a logistics issue where you need to bring it and you need to get into Sri Lanka, and there's a distribution. In this, that whole process is not there, which means the pricing point for ice or meth, ice would be much less. Or it would be less. So the other problem is in any business, normally what they say is for a consumer, affordability is very good. In the drug business, affordability is a very bad thing. Right? So if it becomes, and meth is generally, ice and all, it's normally considered a party drug. Right? Because the reason it keeps you awake. All right? And if you go back to the history of meth,
and then there are so many adverse effects that come after the party.
Exactly. You basically fry your brains out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So the issue is, I think first methamphetamine was manufactured, I think, in the late 18th century. I think it was again made for some pharma. Because it's artificially manufactured, it was made for the pharma industry. I think there was some chemists who kind of came up with this, and I think they used it for particular diseases like ADHD and all that. And then what happened was it became widely used and widely manufactured during Second World War, especially at the middle and the latter part of the Wehrmacht. Wehrmacht is the German army, because when they started marching and when they started losing, especially in the Eastern Front with Russia, what they started was they gave, from the books that I've read, they have given basically meth to the soldiers, because one thing, meth keeps you awake. You forget the concept about hunger and all that, which is like perfect when you're running a war and you're getting pummeled in the trenches, where food supply is cut, where number of casualties are going up. That means you have to keep on. So number of breaks what the soldiers get is less. So what they were doing is they were giving meth, right, just to keep the war going on. But of course that brought other problems also. Then after a while the guys just start, I just start knocking off one by one. But it was used at that level. Then only, I suppose, in the late, from what I've read, I'm not 100% sure of this, because I can't recall this 100%. I think the late 70s and 80s only where this whole meth thing started going, where people started using as a recreational drug. I think maybe from the early 70s and stuff like that. So even in the US is the biggest market in the world for everything, including illicit stuff. So in the US, I think it really started taking off, I think, in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Because when that party culture started coming in, because the party culture in the 40s and 50s was different. So in the 70s, 80s, coming from the flower power movement and all of that, so that's when they moved into like synthetics, like in a big way, right?
Yeah. And the synthetics are, even in the US, I mean, even if you watch Breaking Bad, initially the synthetics are actually taken over the Mexican border. That's why then only, Walter White figured out, okay, I know how to do this. And he made a much more pure form of the stuff that was actually coming through the border, right?
So that is another thing that's happening. So Breaking Bad is set in maybe 2007 to 2010 or around that time.
Around that time,
the setting of the storyline, right? So the meth epidemic in America was in that time or a little before that. Mid 2000s was like the worst time.
Correct.
And what they've found is that it's making a comeback now.
Yeah.
That meth is making a comeback because they actually cracked down on it in 2005 or mid 2000s.
The DEA really
cracked down on it. And then it was like, lying low for a while.
Yeah.
And now it's making a comeback. And what they found is now the meth that is being produced has a purity of 90% or more.
Whoa, okay.
Right? So that is Breaking Bad level. So that means it has that extra X factor for people who who are gullible enough to fall for it.
Right.
Saying that this is so pure and all of that. That this will give you.
So there's actually Walter White making stuff now.
I think there could be. We never know.
Yeah.
I want to find out who Sri Lanka's Walter White and Gus Fring are. But basically in. Over there, I think what has happened is its standards have come up generally. So it's not just one guy doing it. I think generally across the board, the standards have come up. Whether they are coming from Mexico or America, the standards seem to have come up. Maybe with technology, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Right? And also they used to import a lot of it from, import the ingredients from China. And now I think they have found a way to create it themselves, so that they don't have to rely on China and the wait times and the shipping times and the danger of getting caught at customs and all that.
Exactly.
So there's a lot happening on that front in America. I'm thinking that. So another thing is about the pricing. What you said. So the pricing is different based on the market sometimes. So I mean, we obviously don't know what it's priced at in Sri Lanka, but I'm guessing they're pricing it differently when it's being sold to the Colombo, party crowd.
Because Colombo, Western Province, basically being the biggest contributor to GDP, obviously the incomes are higher. So obviously when you come to places like Colombo, that's another real alarming place, because normally a lot of the narcotics are consumed by places where they can actually afford it. But the problem is when the tikka price starts going up, there are other provinces, more poorer provinces. For example, let's say one of the poorest provinces in Sri Lanka is Mondragala, right? Places like that. When it becomes affordable to places like that, then it's alarming. Then it becomes an island-wide pandemic.
And beyond geography also, Riyad, I think even in Colombo, the urban poor, right, can get hooked on this. And those are the horror stories we hear sometimes of like them stealing their own TV and like going and
pawning it and
trying to buy the drugs or stealing from their own mother. It's it's an absolute tragedy that that's what people don't realize. Like even shows like Breaking Bad to a certain extent glorify the use of ice and the manufacture of ice. Even though the ending is tragic for the heroes, it does glorify it by showing it sometimes, right? So I suppose it's a balance that pop culture has to strike.
No, absolutely. I mean that's the whole thing with Hollywood, because the issue is, for example, if you watch Godfather, at the end when you watch the final episode, the
spoiler alert. But
so the thing is,
if you haven't watched it for the past 50 years, still for spoiler alert.
Absolutely. But the thing is, when you watch the final one, where the thing is, it kind of makes them, you kind of, get this whole thing, these mafia guys are like cool, kind of thing, right? So sometimes what happens is the message is actually not very clear, it's very mixed. And sometimes the message goes the other way also. So that is something I suppose you need to watch out for. But the problem is this is a huge problem for the government. And that needs to be addressed very fast, because the problem is, because if this starts to grow, it's going to be a huge issue, because tracking this is very difficult.
That's the thing. And I think, so government's legacy, number one legacy is going to be this anti-corruption thing, no?
Yeah.
But this could be a very close number two.
Yeah. I mean, I think the goalposts are now starting to move, So we'll have to wait and see what they do about this. And one good thing I think that's going on for the government, I don't know, this is my personal opinion. One thing is the current what do you call the chief cop of the country. One thing is he's a guy who has come through from the lowest rank to the highest rank, which means he understands the whole system, how these things work. So because of that, I think on action plan, especially with things related to the ground, right? He might actually have a better picture than most of the other.
And it's a 37-year-old career.
Yeah.
Right?
So he has been there for a while.
37 years old, 37 years. He has seen it all. And I always believed it was about political will.
Yes.
It's not the capability of the police force or anything like that. Because if you get the signal from above, you can act on it.
Yes.
Right? So hopefully we can be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic that this government is giving the right signal.
Absolutely. I mean, if the IGP can, I think the IGP can, and I think he is, if he can work with a clear conscience, I think this thing can be tackled, because generally our investigation, our CID guys and all, they're pretty good, because most of the guys are foreign trained and all that. They know what to do. The thing is, as long as the interference doesn't come, which I don't think will come, and this might be a priority item, as like what you said, I think the goalposts might change.
No, I think this should be like the second priority. Obviously, first priority is going to be what they promised.
That's going to go ahead. I mean, immaterial, what happens, that's going to go ahead.
Anti-corruption drive, no?
Yeah.
But this could be very well the second most important thing.
Absolutely.
And it could be a real win for them if they actually...
If they really nail it down.
Yeah, right. So it will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yes.
Buses.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. The whole what happened in Al, I mean, it was very unfortunate. I mean, and to be honest, I think a couple of years ago also there was a similar bus accident. I think some school kids from a school in Colombo, popular school in Colombo, they were going on a trip or something like that, and there was an accident. So that was basically driver error in that particular case. So this, what they say is, a lot of the survivors, what they say is that
we are talking obviously about the
I'm talking about the Alla
bus accident.
So the Alla bus accident, the survivors, what they say is that just before the crash, the driver shouted saying that the bus doesn't have brakes. Right? I mean, in singular terms, bus brake nahi. So, which is a very alarming thing, especially in a route like that, because a lot of...
Did he shout that while the bus was
before the crash? So the thing is, what they said is that the guy, he went and hit another jeep.
So he didn't know that the brakes were not functioning.
No, so thing is, it's like this, you can get brake failure. There are two ways you can get brake failure. Not two, I think there are about three, but technically it's mostly two. One thing is, especially the first one happens basically in routes where it's very hilly areas, because one thing is ascending is one thing, descending is another issue. So when you're descending, what happens is some inexperienced bus drivers, what they do is they put it on neutral. And they just go on the brake. What happens is the brake starts to overheat. When I say overheat, it's the brake oil that overheats. So when the brake oil, I mean, anyone knows that when you go to a garage and when you're changing your brake oil, when you top it up, they say it's, dot 1, dot 2, dot 3, dot 4 and all that. And most of the European vehicles and all are dot 4. That is the heat range. So which means what is the boiling point of the brake oil. So what happens is any brake oil will have a boiling point. It depends on how it's used. So normally what they say is when you're coming down a hill, come in gear and come in a low gear, because then what happens is the engine braking is there. So this can be an incident where the bus driver, due to inexperience, because they say he's a relatively young man, so due to inexperience.
So there were photos exchanged of him.
There was a video
supposed
actually.
To be him.
Yeah, we don't know it is.
We don't know, right? A young guy in shorts and wearing some chains and all of that.
Chains and a skinny and all. Yeah. He looks like,
so we don't know for sure whether that's him.
Yeah.
So we don't want to.
We don't want to speculate on that. But just going back to the reason where that accident might happen is probably there would have been the brakes would have overheated, which means he has come on gear. right? And sometimes his brake oil also must be a little bit old, because the brake oil, when it becomes older, it becomes more watery because it absorbs atmospheric humidity, and it becomes very watery. Sometimes, if you just take the oil out and check, it's a little bit watery. That means the brake oil has got old. And in Sri Lanka, there is one mistake that what we do is we go and change all oils. That is, we change obviously the engine oil, we change the diff oils, we change gearbox oil. One thing we always forget is the brake oil. So the brake oil also has a particular period. If it goes beyond that, what happens is it becomes a little bit watery, and then the efficiency of the brake oil goes away. And when the efficiency goes off, what happens is the brake oil will overheat much faster. So discounting that, but probably the reason for this, up to that point he didn't have an issue, no. So if he had an issue, probably sometimes I suspect he would have come on the brake on neutral, and then suddenly you just lose. It has happened to me. You just lose brakes. So when that happens, if you're experienced enough, what happens is you need to quickly break your gears, what they say, and you need to bring it to a lower gear and use engine this thing. And plus you need to, particular things that you can do is you need to pump the brake and to get some pressure back in. So that may be a reason, right? Another reason probably would have been that's what happened in the other Badul accident, because they had gone in the bus and he had basically gone on the brake, and suddenly he has just lost the brake, and then there was an accident there. And another reason that can happen is where the maintenance of the vehicle is poor. Right now, if you take Sri Lanka, commercial vehicles need to go through a health certificate. Now, for example, your car and my car, there's no only health certificate that we take is only the engine emission. That we go for the smoke test and all that. They do the smoke test, and then they either pass you or fail you. In commercial vehicles, anything that goes as heavy vehicle category, you need to go and do a health certificate, which means there are approved garages around the country where you can go and do it. The problem I see in that is the amount they charge for the price. There's a price cap put by the Transport Ministry or the Transport Ministry on how much those garages can charge. Right. So it used to be 500 rupees. Now I think they've increased to 1,000. With 1,000 rupees, when a huge, for example,
how often, Riyad?
Once a year. Once a year. With the smoke test, you need to do it.
Okay. So once a year, 1,000 is not too unreasonable, right?
No, it's not unreasonable, but it's not something the guy who supplies that service, it's very difficult for him to do it for 1,000 rupees. Like, for example,
you mean it's too low?
Yeah, right, too low. So you need to have a certified person from the Transport Ministry. I think there's some exams you need to do. That person has to be there from the CTB. Certified. I don't know about the documentation, but there is an official guy has to be there. You need to pay his salary. Plus, you need a large area to basically accommodate these vehicles, because it's not like a car or a bike going in. To turn a bus and turn a lorry or one of these tippers and all that, you need a huge area. So when the land mass of that garage goes up, that means the cost also goes up. No? So that is another one. Other one is there are things that they need to check. They need to check the brakes. They need to check the the lights, if the lights are at the right level and all that. To do all that, Charindra, in a big vehicle, it's going to take about, at least properly, I think it's going to take at least an hour. So currently what happens is, because the rate is so low, these guys just go, they just check, in our language, what we say, uding getting ball, no? Right? We just check it from here and there. They just check and see, okay, he gets it, starts the vehicle, flexible, okay, the brake, it feels like it's working. But no actual testing is not done, as far as I know. Because the problem is, you can't do it. And there's another reason. The people who come to do those checks and all that, these are lorry drivers and bus guys. They have a schedule to keep. So they just want to come, quickly get it done and go. Now, if an accident like this happens, I'm pretty sure they are going to check the last person who issued that's one area nobody's reporting about, right? This health certificate of the bus, who had given it? He'll be called in by the police. I'm 100% sure. Then they will check and say, how do you check all this stuff? The thing is, best way to do this is, you need to get all those people to come and say, okay, if you're doing this properly, when we say properly, how much is it going to cost you? And you need to get it to a price point, because thing is, Chari, the things like buses and lorries, these are commercial vehicles. These are not run privately, right? They are earning money. So if they're earning money, right, why can't you just increase it a little bit and, make sure that they do a proper job? Because they are by putting a price cap, the government or the ministry is pushing them to a corner where they have to do it at a very non-attentive way. where they will just check, okay, you get into a bus, you will check the underneath and see if there are any oil leaks, right? You will check and see. I mean, especially in this case, brakes are very important, right? I mean, there is no brake efficiency test done. Like now in other countries for commercial vehicles and all that, they do a brake where they take the vehicle for a drive and they check. In Sri Lanka, none of the testing facilities, I mean, I have been to one or two that I know of, not one or two, maybe a few more that I have been to. They don't take the bus and go for a drive and do a brake check and all that. Nothing is done because the reason is they don't have time to do it. And and if they do all that, they can only, let's say, accommodate maybe 5 or 6 buses a day. So just imagine 500 into 6 is $3,000. With $3,000, can you run a garage? Can you pay a person who comes from the ministry, who's certified from the ministry and all? Can you do all that? You can't. So this, I think the government urgently needs to address this and get this into order where they do the regulatory framework and they let these people, you give them the minimum standards and you need to have a discussion with the people who are actually doing the garage owners and say, okay, if you're doing this properly, what's the price? And on the other hand, the garage owners have to give have to be very precise, saying that they will do a right job.
Yeah.
Because if that thing is not done, then the trans ministry can go helter-belter and go and nail the guy and make it even a criminal offense. Because end of the day, he has not done his part.
Yeah.
So all these things go into play, where we have a very loose system where it can be very easily abused. Now, for example, in some other countries, you need to be a license holder for a particular period before you can get your heavy vehicle license. Now, for example, I have a heavy vehicle license not to drive buses, but particular Jeeps and all that, 61 dash, because they go under the bus category. So I just took it because sometimes when we go on these trips and all that, you have to drive. And I have had enough run-ins with the law, where we have arguments where, the Jeep in front and the Jeep at the back, one is 64, one is 61, right? It's both identical, but the problem is legally they are different because they were bought under a different tax code when they were imported. So, but the scenario is getting that license is not very difficult. I mean, if you have, I think what they want is you need to have a couple of years of driving. There is a test that you need to do, right? Where you drive around Vera, which I did, right? But the thing is, there is no what you call training done for people. For example, now if you take driving in Colombo and driving on the highway or places of flatland, is relatively easy than driving into, let's say, upcountry. Because upcountry, the terrain is completely different. It's very curvy, there are a lot of bends, there are a lot of blind spots, right? You need to have a lot of discipline. And the other thing is the terrain. You go up and down, right? So what happens is, if this guy is riding on the brake, obviously you're going to have issues with the brake. I mean, even if it's 100% well-maintained bus. And there's another issue. A lot of the buses in Sri Lanka, like I would say 95 or almost 100%, the buses are actually, they come with lorry chassis. These are lorry chassis which are converted into a bus frame. Right? Bus body. So the issue is there's another, so the thing is how it's designed, it's not designed for passenger transport. Right? Now, if you take a equivalent Japanese vehicle or something, they have ABS brakes, the braking system and all is advanced, and they have traction control and all that. So all the safety features are there. So when you have a fully electronic system, even if the braking system is kind of, there's some problems, it will at least give a warning. Now, the current buses and all that, even if the brake level, let's say there's a leak and the brake fluid goes off, I mean, there's nothing to show the driver that that you're running a vehicle without any brake fluid in the system, right? And if you take your car, if your brake fluid, let's say some leak happens, it can happen, right? It can happen on the way. Some seal goes off, or let's say some O-ring goes off, and you're leaking your dashboard. The brake light will come up, and then there's something problem. You don't know what the problem is. There's some problem with the brakes, right? Then you'll be more careful, right? Then next thing what you're going to do is you're going to go to a garage and check it out, right?
Right.
So currently you get the Indian buses and all that we run. I mean, none of those features are there. So obviously,
better regulation.
You need better regulation, and you need to have
better oversight also.
Oversight also, yes.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move on.
Yeah.
Out of Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Indonesia.
Yes. Before that, Chari, there's another one that I actually want to ask you about, the whole HRC issue.
UNHRC.
UNHRC.
So the UNHRC High Commissioner yesterday actually
the foreign minister went for it, right?
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Yeah, his name is Volker Turk.
Right.
He was in Sri Lanka recently.
All right. Okay.
So he met the president, met the people he had to meet.
Okay.
And he, if I remember correctly, he did a tour around. He went to the Chemmani gravesite.
Right. Yeah.
Again, it's subject to correction. I don't remember whether he did, but I think he did.
Okay.
So he saw a lot.
Right.
And this was basically him presenting his report.
Right.
And he gave a speech. In his address, he spoke about how there are positives with the new government.
Right.
And generally the sentiments, the sort of the right noises are being made about reconciliation, about the right to mourn your loved ones.
Right.
Quite important.
Right.
And so often this is looked at as a sort of a socio-cultural issue, right?
Yeah.
But there's an economic side to it as well, Riyad,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, my stance has always been that the world isn't fair.
Yes.
Right? So we see what's happening in Gaza, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now at least there is some pushback, but for 2 years almost, there was nothing. There was always the talk about Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right to exist. These kind of things. Whenever you bring up the topic of how Israel is oppressing Gaza, then you have this coming up from the other side, that Israel has the right to exist and all of that. So completely whitewashing Israel's actions. So it's not fair. And then when you look at Ukraine and Russia, it's a whole different thing. Like the standards are not applied equally.
So that is basically, Charindra, I mean, that is the Western double standards and the hypocrisy.
Exactly, right? So the usual line we get from Sri Lanka is, what is happening in Gaza? Why aren't you talking about it? Or what is happening in some other country? Why aren't you talking about it? Why are you focusing on Sri Lanka? What is happening in America? Is everything hunky-dory over there? So it's not hunky-dory over there.
It's a different ice.
It's a different, exactly, right? But at the end of the day, it is always in our benefit to keep the international community as friendly as we can.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And some of these conflicts that, or the tensions that were brought out were not because of any patriotism, really. It's because it sells better for a certain political party's base, right? So they can paint it as us against the world. Right? This is a Western conspiracy, Western hypocrisy and all that.
Exactly.
Which is all true. Right? It is Western hypocrisy and all those issues are there.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, what are we going to do?
Right?
A country our size, and even more importantly, a country the size of our economy, right?
We have to play ball.
Yeah, we have to play ball. Exactly, right? What are we going to do? Are we going to take on the world? Right? Now at least it's a bit of a multipolar world, becoming one, because China, India, all of that is there. But when we were having these battles, it was basically America was ruling the roost, right?
Absolutely, it was a bipolar thing.
Exactly.
So but the thing is, Chanil, I'm just trying to figure out, do you think I think the signals that have basically come, they look positive, don't they?
Positive. They look positive. So as with most things with this government, I'm cautiously optimistic. But I don't want to get too optimistic also, because you never know how governments can turn.
And how they might drop the ball.
How they might drop the ball, how they might take a complete U-turn, or they might put the signal to the right and then turn left. Or vice versa. So we don't know. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I think, like you said, the right signals are being made, the right optics are there, right? The fact that the president himself repeatedly has come out and said that there is no space for racial tensions any further, right? and his point is that this is not a unity that is solidified yet.
Yes.
It's like you have just built something.
Yes.
And it needs time to sort of dry out and if it's like right after painting a wall or building something. So he's saying at this stage, I'm not going to let anybody come in and destroy what we are building here.
Right.
And those are strong signals. Right.
Right. Okay.
And I think for him, it's non-negotiable.
Okay.
This issue of reconciliation, this issue of ethnic harmony.
Yeah.
And economically, it has a role to play as well, because the world would look at us in a more positive light if it knows that we are a country that has greater harmony, between its citizens, has greater respect for human rights, fundamental rights, and all of that.
Yeah.
So people will be more willing to trade with us, more willing to invest here. So that is where the economic component comes in, that people don't talk about often. So I think the right signals are being made. I think one concern that the High Commissioner expressed was that on the PTA, on the Prevention of Terrorism Act, not enough has been done. And I think the government has to admit that. So the government is saying that they are bringing in another act, right? But that's not exactly what they said before the campaign. Before the election. In the campaign, what they were saying is that they are going to repeal the act. Right? They are not going to use it. Or at least have a moratorium on it, but they are using it.
They are using it.
So they have to put their hand up and say, okay, so we made a mess of that, or we have not been honest to what we were talking about. So it will be interesting to see how on the human rights front and reconciliation front, how Sri Lanka progresses.
Right. And sorry, the thing is, and the government has basically stuck to the same ideology of the previous governments, where they are saying, whatever domestic issues and all that, the legality and all that, courts and all that we are going to.
So they have refused a foreign mechanism, right? An international mechanism. They have said that we can have a domestic mechanism for this. We can, essentially saying we can take care of our own
problems.
We can put our own house in order. So that is okay if we are actually going to do it.
Right.
I don't know how just politically we can. Right. Just think of Chemmani, right? The skeletons being uncovered there leads to a lot of other questions.
Absolutely.
And then it leads to very, very complicated questions for the government to answer. I don't want to get into them here, but it's going to lead to very, very complicated questions about who ordered those killings. Because those people didn't jump in and die alone, by themselves. So who ordered them? Who carried out those orders, right? Was there an organizational sort of strategy with that? So
so that's the thing, because come to think of it, because now, especially with the problems what we're having with trade with the US, European Union is even more important to us now, right? Especially with the apparel industry and all that. And when it comes to things like UNHRC and all that, the European Union, that bloc is very sensitive to things like this. By tradition, that has always been the case. So I think, looking at that, I think the government might have to actually tread this ground very carefully and try to diplomatically kind of solve it with them. Because the current scenario where we are, Sri Lanka's economy is, if you like it or not, we are actually, when it comes to our exports, we are very dependent on the West. And these questions will be asked by the West.
Exactly.
Right. So the thing is, how the government handles this, I think it will test them a lot. But I don't know. Let's wait and see. Coming days we'll know how things are going on. And
at the moment, the good thing is there are no threats of any sanctions or
no, there's nothing like that.
Nothing like that. So
and up to now they are handling it kind of okay.
They're handling it kind of okay. And it seems genuine. That's what I'm saying. It seems genuine. It seems like, in the sense, it seems like it benefits them politically. And for once, we seem to have a government who benefits politically through unity.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because usually it is either
divide and conquer.
You either prioritize the the majority or you try to prioritize the minority.
Yeah.
So it just feels like there's a nice balance being struck. So let's wait and see how that pans out. Right. Before we wind up, Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's crazy over there.
Yeah, it is.
Right? And
actually, Dana is over there now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's in Jakarta. Wow. So it was a pre-arranged event that he had to go to.
Okay.
So when he comes up, we can actually get the whole inside scenario what happened there. Because we have a man on the ground.
Man on the ground, yes. We are like BBC, no? People all over.
Yeah, exactly. So the scenario is,
scenario is crazy and those MPs. So the main issue concerns. So there's a death. There was a death of a delivery boy.
Food delivery boy who died.
Delivery boy. Ride. Yeah, I think food delivery boy. Yeah, on a bike.
On a bike, and there was what you call the MP's housing allowances.
That's the thing.
Increased by $3,000.
Yeah, the main issue, Riyad, is so that is just a trigger. The death. Right? The main issue is that these MPs, the political establishment, seems to have been looting the people in legitimate ways.
Yes.
Just legitimate looting.
Yeah.
Right? Where you...
Yeah, this is not
robbing.
Robbing, yeah.
This is legitimately, constitutionally...
Absolutely.
...increasing your perks and allowances. And the statistics are just incredible. Their salary now... is supposed to be 10 times...
No, it's not the salary. I think it's the housing allowance. Housing allowance was increased to $3,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is 10 times the average pay in Indonesia.
No. There are two things. One is about the allowance, housing allowance, which is higher than a 3-bedroom apartment in Jakarta.
Wow. Okay.
Right? Then much higher.
Okay.
Right? The other thing is that the salary that they get currently is about 10 times the
average pay.
The average pay in Jakarta.
Wow.
So they are saying if you go to the provinces,
it's more.
about 20 times more.
Wow.
Right? The less developed areas in the country, because the average income changes. No?
Yeah.
So the average income in Jakarta itself is 1/10 of what the MPs are getting now.
Yeah, and Indonesia is a big country. It starts from Malaysia and ends near Australia.
That's the
So that's what they say. You can fly from Melbourne to Indonesia. The flying time is less than flying from Melbourne to Sydney.
Yeah.
So not Melbourne to Sydney, Melbourne to Perth or something like that. So it's a big country, and I don't know. It has really got ugly there, isn't it?
Yeah, it has really got ugly, and I think the president is. I don't know how he's planning to handle it because it's not necessarily dying down.
Yeah.
And it might lead to, so what we are seeing around the world is that, people are not willing to be as patient as they were earlier.
Yeah.
Now with social media and all of that, you have faster access to information.
Absolutely.
And you get riled up faster and you can build a movement faster.
Correct.
Not like the old days. So we obviously saw it in Sri Lanka, we saw it in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
That's well documented over here about the Bangladesh situation.
Now we are seeing it in Nepal as well.
We are seeing it in Nepal. We almost saw it in Kenya.
Yeah.
And now we are seeing it in Indonesia. So around the world. And I think a lot of it is driven by social media because people have access to information.
Absolutely.
That people, the government is finding it difficult. And in fact, in Nepal, what's happening is that the government banned social media essentially.
Yeah.
And now they are protesting against that.
Exactly.
Because they want that information.
Absolutely. And there is a kind of a push towards, again, it was a monarchy and then it became a democracy. And I think there's a new push to go back to a monarchy.
Yeah. So even in Indonesia, the problem is that the president actually comes from a background of authoritarianism.
Okay.
And now it looks like he's trying to take it back. To that, so he has appointed military people to the civil service.
Right.
So there are issues like that. So they'll have to manage that properly because the economy. So the Indonesian economy is not doing well in the sense statistically it's doing well.
Yeah, but I think there's a huge issue because Indonesia is I think it's the most populous Muslim country in the world. So, and I think there the real issue is affordability has become a massive problem.
Exactly.
Where people can't enjoy, people
and income inequality.
Exactly.
So the rich are
super rich there.
But
So,
the poor are struggling, and they are seeing the rich enjoy that wealth.
yeah, but the thing is, Charindra, that is something that you see worldwide now. Because even if you take the US, it's measured by something called the Gini coefficient, right? And you see that inequality, especially even in the US, even though unemployment statistically is it's under 5%. You see, for example, you go to the big cities and all that, you see a lot of people who are homeless, and of course, US has its own problems, healthcare and all that. But the thing is, you see this inequality thing actually happening a lot, where statistically the country's economy has grown, where the GDP has grown, and the wealth of the country has grown right now. But the problem is how that has been shared among its citizens has not been very straightforward. So, for example, the richest, I would say 5% or something, has got the most of it.
Yeah, the richest 1% in America is supposed to have the
60% or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
60% of the wealth. I don't remember the exact number.
But
don't quote me on that. But basically, so it's a big problem around the world. India is going to have that problem, right? India is just...
you get some of the richest people in the world are Indians, and they live, for example, the whole Ambani wedding, right? Everyone spoke about that and how they lashed out money on that. So with that, some of the poorest people in the world are also in India.
And you see that nowhere, you see that very well in Mumbai. When you go as a city. Right, how these skyscrapers are there, and then
the shanties are there, right alongside.
It's just the two worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a global trend.
It's a global trend. So what's basically happening on an economic angle?
And it will happen in Australia also, I feel.
No, it's happening all over the world. So the issue is the problem really arises because for any country, for it to have a really very, very healthy economy, you need a healthy middle class.
Exactly.
So currently what's happening is the middle class is getting wiped out. Part of the middle class is actually, they are scaling up, they're going up the ladder. But most of the middle class is getting pushed back into, I won't say poverty, but easiest term to explain is, they are having less now than what they had. So that has become a poor, where the people who have been, the people who are rich have, their wealth has quadrupled, and their wealth has quadrupled, or at least it has multiplied. So that is going to be a big issue, I think, worldwide. And that's why, if you take any of, living standards and all that, Scandinavian countries, they score very high. Because in the Scandinavian countries, the Gini coefficient is actually very low. So because of that means inequality is not there. That means the wealth is also basically spread among the citizens. So everyone is basically they're living a good life. So this is going to be a huge testing site for the world. But I think it's alarming. It's happening at a very accelerated state in countries like, for example, the developing world. So that is something, I don't know, the government, I think especially the government in Sri Lanka also, I think it's probably, if it's happening worldwide, it's happening here too. So I think that is something that even our very own government in Sri Lanka, they'll have to really look into it.
Yeah, we can talk about that next week, about how Sri Lanka can handle or potentially prepare for this kind of income inequality and to prevent that happening.
Absolutely.
All right, we're done.
Right, okay, cool.
We're out of time, but thanks, Riyad, and we shall catch you next week.
All right, cool. See you, Shadi.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.